Got a few viewers out there from Ireland that sometimes like to tune in. So wishing them a very happy St. Patrick's Day to your patron saint of Ireland. All right, guys, I'm going to wait for a few minutes, let you guys pop on board. Got some really fun stuff to share with you this evening. And I'm going to start off by saying just cheers to anybody coming in. As you come on board, guys, let me know if you can hear me with the microphone. And also, if you are watching the replay, if you wouldn't mind putting hashtag replay in the comment section. I always like to see who's watching the replay, and also if there's any questions that they might that you might post afterwards for those of you watching after this. Hey, Jeanette, glad you could join in. Guys, as you come on board, I'm actually also streaming through my personal Facebook account. I'm kind of playing around a little bit with the software. Thank you, Jeanette. Okay, glad you can hear me. Yes, got the microphone right. 2 weeks in a row. We got Glenda on board listening to me from the YouTube channel. We've got Andrea. Yes, here I am, Andrea. It was a busy, busy day with all the kids and the homework and the geometry and the algebra. And oh my goodness, it's Cosi be the goody two shoes. Dude, Mark, if the worst somebody ever calls me in my life is a goody two shoes, I think I'm doing just fine. So Mark was watching my live video today and he asked me if I had a tattoo on my hand, because what he saw was just notes that I scribble to myself on my hand periodically. And I'm like, no, don't have a tattoo. Sorry. We got William on board from Richmond, Virginia. We got Kay Levinson. Audio is great. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Bonnie, drinking coffee on a rainy night. We got John. Have you much experience with Martin Bionic sockets? I would love to answer that question in just a minute, John. We got Chris from Iowa. We got, there's Mark. Jim Simpson. Hello and happy St. Patrick's Day to you. Brett says, hi, Cosi, no drink. Brent, I sent out your mug, so hopefully you should be getting it soon. No, it's not a tattoo. It was just, guys, I've got 4 kids and then 2 businesses I run. So if I want to make sure I remember something, I literally will write it on my hand and hopefully not wash it off at some point during the day. We got Johnny V from Poughkeepsie, New York in the Cosi Talks house. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well, Johnny. We got Kenny and Damon on board. Okay. Cheers, folks. Steven, so good. Steven, I'm a little disappointed. I haven't gotten any of your questions in like the past 2 weeks. I'm feeling a little lonely here, Steven. We got Jeffrey with just some water. Jeffrey, really? Just water on St. Patrick's Day? Seriously? Come on, Jeffrey. We got Chuck on board, watching also from the YouTube channel. Pat Glover, Irish Red Ale tonight. There you go, Pat. Hey, girl. Water for you too, Line? Man, you're killing me. You're killing me here, guys. All right, so for those of you who are watching, guys, I'm also streaming from my YouTube channel, and I have some fun stuff to share with you guys tonight from there. So hopefully I can get this share screen option working properly. We got Jeff Riley from Iowa, exactly 12 hours from surgery. All the best to you, Jeff. Jeff has lots of prayers and well wishes to you, Jeff, on your surgery. We got Jill on board. Frank, compadre, happy St. Patrick's Day, man. Happy St. All right, so with that, guy, we'll lift your mugs, lift your beer steins, whatever you got, and cheers. Cheers to Ireland and cheers to happy St. Patrick. Let's see. Jim says, received my cool mug just fine and in great shape. Awesome, Jim. So you're one of the cool kids. We got, let's see, awesome, guys, awesome. All right, so for those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Cosi Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. I am the proud owner of a private outpatient clinic here that is exclusively for working with amputees and teaching them how to walk and sometimes even run with their prosthetic devices. And it's kind of nice. I think some of you are on spring break or vacation or something, but I've been getting a couple of messages here and there of folks passing through town and wanting to stop by the clinic to say hello. So it's always nice to see some of the viewers and put some faces to names sometimes. So thank you, guys. Oh, Jeanette, hope your mom's doing okay. So guys, not a whole lot of questions tonight, but the questions that did come in are actually really, really great questions. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump in and get started. Actually, let me answer the question that I believe John had a question about. John, you just had a question here. You were asking me about my experience with Martin Bionic sockets. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar, there's, your traditional socket, which is like that hard plastic, thermoplastic type, not thermoplastic, like a hard plastic type material, right? That you go into and it's not very flexible, right? And then you have to adjust your fit by either adding socks or taking away socks and all of that jazz, right? So not too long ago, they created what's called adjustable socket technology, which is basically exactly that, a socket that is adjustable. And there are many, many different kinds, guys. I've seen some brilliant concoctions by some of my local prosthetists where they will sometimes put a window into the socket, and then they will put the cording around it to allow the person to push the window in and out according to how much volume change they're having, okay? Then you have something a little more sophisticated. Limb Innovations was one company. Unfortunately, I don't think they're around anymore. They also had an adjustable socket for above the knee and below the knee, and it was controlled by a little dial that you would twist the dial and it would tighten up the socket and then loosen it up again. So I'm more familiar with the Limb Innovations adjustable socket because I worked a little bit with that company and had them on the show as we talked about different sockets. I have heard a lot about Martin Bionic sockets, and I've heard a lot of positive things lately about Martin Bionic sockets. Once upon a time, I believe they would ship the socket out to the prosthetist, and the prosthetist would have to put it together. But I think they ran into some problems there because obviously you needed some specialized training to put those sockets together. So I think they kind of did like a little makeover on their business model, and now they do all of their sockets in-house. And I do know that they have, don't quote me on where they have their clinics, but I know they have more than one clinic now that produces these adjustable sockets. Okay, so some of the obvious benefits is that you don't necessarily have to mess around as much with the socks. There's adjustability. And again, I cannot speak for Martin Bionic, so I'm not as familiar with that particular socket. I know in some of the other adjustable sockets I've seen from other companies, it could accommodate up to 9 to 15 ply of the socks. So quite a bit of an adjustment there, just depending on the socket itself. It's definitely geared towards an amputee who has a lot of volume fluctuation, someone who throughout their day is constantly losing volume, expanding volume. I actually have one individual that I'm working with right now, and she is a candidate, I think, and I referred her to see if she's a candidate for a Martin Bionic socket. She experiences a lot of volume loss throughout the day itself, and even if she adds on her socks, it ends up affecting the fit in her socket, because by the time she adds enough socks in, she's elevated up out of that socket and she loses her stability. So someone like this particular individual is actually a good candidate to be evaluated for an adjustable socket. But again, guys, if that is something you're considering, again, a highly experienced prosthetist is really important to this. Those of you who have been listening to the show, you guys know how important it is to have a well-fitting socket, whether it's a traditional hard socket or whether you're going for something like an adjustable socket. It has to fit well and it has to be well made. And different prosthetists will have different skill levels for these different types of components. So if that is something that you're considering, make sure you do your research and find that prosthetist who's been specifically trained not only on how to make it, but that if they can tell you if you really are a candidate for that or not. So for the particular individual that I was just referring to, for me, I think she's a candidate, but I'm not the final say so. I am certainly not the expert on Martin Bionic sockets. So I referred her to a prosthetist who is an expert, and he's going to check to see if in fact she is a candidate or not. And if not, what are her other options? Okay, but that's a really good question. It all starts with the socket, guys. If your socket is fitting properly, if it's comfortable, you can walk in just about anything. And then the opposite, it also goes. You could have the fanciest microprocessor knee, foot integrated system, and if your socket is not fitting well, you are dead in the water. All right, let's look through some of these questions, through these comments here. Oh, Patricia, you're here for the first time. Patricia, I have your question right here, and boy, is it a good one. It is a good one, and it's one that I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to. Yes, Mark, I do have a prosthetist that is really an expert in Martin Bionic sockets. So sometimes if I have someone who's a candidate, I might refer them to that person. But guys, you can also go on their website. Again, I've never worked with Martin Bionics myself personally, so I'm not familiar with their screening process, how they evaluate and assess the candidates. So that's something that y'all have to go onto the website and just see what their process is. New Revos next week. Nice, Jeffrey. Let's see. Ooh, Arnold. That's a very good question. Arnold says, hi, Cosi, do you know if there is any scientific evidence that a microprocessor knee versus a mechanical hydraulic knee helps OA, osteoarthritis, in the intact knee, and would therefore help convince an insurance company to cover the microprocessor knee? Arnold, that is a fantastic question. Fantastic question. So let me just start off by saying, do I personally have any scientific evidence that I can show you right now? No. Okay, so everything I'm telling you right now is just based on my 18 plus years of experience as in the clinic and as a physical therapist, okay? But Arnold, now that you mentioned that, I think I will start digging around in my literature and just see if I can find, because I know there have been studies done. There have been studies done about this topic. So here's the theory. The theory is that one of the benefits of a microprocessor knee is that it makes the gait more efficient, right? It adjusts the friction in the knee for the individual walking and decreases the amount of energy expenditure that a person has to put into walking. Okay, so that's one of the big hoorahs of a microprocessor knee compared to a mechanical hydraulic knee. Okay, herein lies the rub, Arnold. There are a lot of people out there who use a microprocessor knee, but they don't know how to utilize it properly. Okay, so a lot of times people will pop on a microprocessor knee thinking, okay, let's go knee, let's walk. And they don't understand that they have to learn how to utilize that knee the same way that they would have to learn how to utilize a mechanical hydraulic knee. Two different ways, but meaning they have to put the work into it to know how to utilize it. So if you don't know how to use it, okay, then the benefits of that microprocessor knee are not going to be maximized. Okay. And that microprocessor knee can be just as cumbersome as a mechanical knee if you're not utilizing it properly. Okay. Now, in theory, if you're using the microprocessor knee properly, less energy expenditure, and then theoretically, that would also mean that you're putting more weight into the prosthetic side, meaning you're taking pressure off of your sound limb. So over the course of time, there would be less wear and tear theoretically, right, on your sound knee. Okay, so in theory, from my years of practice, not any literature that I'm citing, guys, and again, I'm very particular about when I say things, whether I got it from literature or if it's just from my years of experience as a clinician, okay? In theory, if you're using a microprocessor knee and you're utilizing it to its max potential, it might give you a little bit of an advantage at staving off the osteoarthritis because it's giving you better efficiency and you might want to use that leg more. Flip side, because you know I always got to put a flip side to it, Arnold. There are a lot of folks out there who use hydraulic mechanical knees, Arnold, and they walk beautifully. Beautifully. I mean, guys, keeping in mind, these microprocessor knees did not really become commercially available until early 2000s. Early 2000. I mean, I started practicing in 2002, and I didn't see a single microprocessor knee for quite a few years. Okay. So before then, we would teaching people how to walk on mechanical and hydraulic knees was the normal. And people could learn how to walk beautifully and utilize almost even weight on both sides. Okay. Arnold, do I think that an insurance company would cover the microprocessor knee based on that argument? I don't think so. Would I still try? Yes. And especially if you can find the literature to support it. So Arnold, I want you to please, I'm going to give you a homework assignment, Arnold. I want you to email me, and I'm going to type in my email. I want you to please email me and send me this question again, because I want you to give me a nudge so that I can look for the literature and see if there's any literature. And guys, in some of the work that I've done with local patients and helping trying to get some components approved, I have pulled literature, and I've pulled literature and I've put it in with my notes and I've sent it off with the prosthetist notes to the insurance company just to show them, hey, this is what the literature is saying. So is it worth a try? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a couple of clinicians on board here tonight. If they would like to chime in about this, I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well. That's a really great question, Arnold. We've got Sandra on board. We got Daniel Waters, Stephen Schreidel from Michigan with his hot chocolate. All right. Let's see. Mary says, how about a sport to ride a horse, English dressage? So Mary, can you specify a little bit more for me, Mary? Do you mean, is it possible to ride a horse with a prosthesis? Is that what you're trying to ask? Or can you just kind of be a little more specific for me? Let's see. Susan says, my elevated vacuum system really works well for my volume changes. So yeah, guys, again, if you're somebody who's wondering, am I a candidate for adjustable socket technology? Am I a candidate for, because I experience a lot of volume changes, this is where the careful conversation with both your physical therapist and your prosthetist can be very valuable. It's about identifying, okay, where are these volume changes coming from? Is it something from a particular pathology that you might have? Is it from an autoimmune disease, diabetes, blood pressure issues that causes your limb to go swell up and down throughout the day? Or is it because you live in a hot, sticky state like Florida, and for crying out loud, we will sweat 3 pounds off just walking to our car, and that's going to affect your volume change. So again, that's going to help determine what type of socket will be most appropriate for you. Okay, let's see. Stephen, that's an excellent question, Stephen. Stephen, man, I love your questions. Stephen asks, so how do you know who's an expert? I've never met anyone who described their skills as marginal. That's a very good question. Steve, ask them. Honestly, there have been plenty of times on this show where people have asked me a question on a particular topic that I'm not an expert on, that I don't have a lot of experience with, and I'm perfectly comfortable saying that. So guys, for me, when I talk to fellow clinicians, we're not, we don't know everything about everything, right? So just ask, do you have experience with adjustable sockets? What are your thoughts on adjustable sockets? And if they say, oh yeah, I'm really great with adjustable sockets, well, how many do you do on average per year? That's a perfectly reasonable question to ask. And you can even flip that on the physical therapist. If you're looking for a physical therapist who works with amputees, and asking them, well, how many amputees have you worked with? How many below the knee, above the knee? Have you ever worked with a bilateral amputee before? And on average, how many do you see per year or per week? Okay. And hopefully that person will be honest with you. And if they say, well, I've done 1 or 2 adjustable sockets, then maybe that person's not as experienced. Okay. And then take it a step further, Stephen. If they say, yes, I've done several adjustable sockets in my practice, you can take it a step further and say, is there anybody of your patients that I can talk to and ask them questions about how they're doing in their lives with their adjustable sockets? Okay. That's the best way to find out if the person really is an expert. Talk to their patients. And you'll be able to tell, if they're, being honest with you or not about it. Let's see. So Megan says, Mayo had a study, I submitted and they still denied. Yeah. And again, guys, with insurance companies, there have been some times where I submitted justifications, I submitted literature, and I thought to myself, this is a home run. There is no way that they are denying this patient this particular technology. And they did. And see, Stephen, that's one thing I will tell you. I am not an expert on insurance and, getting things approved with technology. That is something my own practice, I don't accept insurance. But like I said, I do sometimes help out a local prosthetist in helping them try to get certain equipment approved for their patients. I can tell you this about insurance is the more supporting paperwork that you can give and provide, the better your chances and persistence. I mean, I've seen some of you, there was a beautiful post today on Instagram. I think her name is the Amputee OT, and she just had this beautiful picture of herself hugging her componentry that her insurance finally approved, because she just kept going back and back and back and back and keep advocating, until they got the equipment approved. So guys, I wish I had a better answer for you there. I need to bring an expert on the show. That's definitely a show I need to do, is find the expert on insurance reimbursements. And I do know of one. Let's see if I can get her on the show. That'd be a good one, right? All right. Glenda asks, I ruptured the plantar fascia in my sound limb. Ooh. Can I do stretching of the Achilles as I have a tight Achilles? I'm a right BKA. Okay, so Glenda, when you mean that you ruptured the plantar fascia, the plantar fascia is, if we're to look at the anatomy of a foot, at the bottom of the foot and look under the first layer of skin, you would find this really thick band of white tissue, and that's basically your fascia. And it consists of all just like tendons and everything. It just kind of all melds together, right? It's one big old piece right there. So do you mean that you have plantar fasciitis, which is an inflammation caused by little micro tears in the plantar fascia? Or did you have an Achilles tendon rupture, which your Achilles tendon attaches right here at the heel? So can you just clarify that for me, Glenda? Happy St. Patrick's Day to you, Robin. Oh, she says, I love my microprocessor knee. Okay, Brett says, I'm getting pretty good at the wheelchair, just trying to keep it positive. Hey, Eric, glad you could join us this evening. Sandra says, how does one learn to use the microprocessor knee to its fullest potential? Anybody want to chime in the answer with me? Physical therapy. Okay. So Sandra, one of my favorite and probably corniest sayings as a PT is, the prosthetist builds the car, the physical therapist teaches you how to drive the car. And guys, whenever I get someone in my clinic who's new and they have this microprocessor knee and they're not bending the knee or they're swinging their leg out to the side, it hurts my eyes. It's like driving a Ferrari in first gear. Okay, and riding the clutch. So, but the thing is, Sandra, it does have a different way of functioning and activating that knee compared to a mechanical knee. And the thing is, you need to have a lot of good strength, okay? Because with the extra mobility and movement and efficiency you get with that microprocessor knee, you're not going to have as much stability sometimes. Okay, so you have to be in control of it. And a lot of times when folks are learning to first use the microprocessor knee, that's a really scary sensation. So if they don't know how to trust that knee and really utilize it properly, they're going to end up just swinging it out to the side or not really bending it all the way. Okay. And again, this involves a full course of physical therapy. It really does. It involves a course of learning the mechanics of the knee and how to activate it. Lots of strengthening, lots of balance, lots of proprioceptive exercises. Okay. So there's a lot involved with this. What? Oh, hey, Julie from Northern Ireland. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you, Julie. She says, what's the best AK leg for running? So Julie, I'm not sure if you're talking about the socket or if you're talking about perhaps the knee. And I know I have a friend here who has a very strong opinion about her AK running. So hopefully she'll chime in as well. So with the AK runner, there's two ways of running. Okay. There's the running without a knee, where it's just a straight pylon. And in that case, when the person runs, they swing their leg out to the side. Okay. That's a more stable way of running because obviously you're not having to coordinate bending and extending the knee. So it's a much more stable way of running. Okay. And then there's the running that you use and you incorporate a knee into that running leg. So Julie, there's a couple of options. Typically, a lot of my patients will use a mechanical knee, and the first one that kind of comes to mind, and again, it's not the only one out there, it's the one made by Autobach, and I believe, I am so bad with names, I believe it's the 3R80. If any of my runners are out there and they want to share this information, now would be a fantastic time. But a mechanical knee is usually what's utilized. And as far as running feet are concerned, holy smokes, there's a whole plethora of running blades out there now to choose from. And a lot of it just depends on the type of runner that you are and the kind of feel that you want when you're running. There are some blades that are a little bit harder to compress, and they're meant for sprinting, faster running. And then there's some that are a little more cushy, a little easier to compress, and they're meant for longer runs. Okay. So there's a whole lot that can be involved with the running leg, Julie. Definitely if you are someone who's considering running, like that's part of your fitness routine, that's part of what you do, you're an athlete, you definitely need to have a running leg made specifically for that. The same way that you would purchase running shoes specific to your running needs. If you are someone who's running on a regular basis, then definitely a running leg is something you want to think about. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got some great questions. So guys, I'm going to take a brief break from these questions. I'm not going to forget. I wanted to share something with you guys. So I've been working on a lot of projects. I feel like an octopus. I've been working on so many different projects for the past 6 months. And one of my projects is finally starting to kind of get off the road. And I want to share that. I did a video of it today on Facebook. Some of you may have seen it already. It's basically to do with my YouTube channel. So just kind of taking the feedback that everybody gave me the past couple of years of doing the show and just seeing what it is that you all would like to see from me on these social media platforms with the information, kind of gave my YouTube channel a makeover. So I'm going to try to do the share screen and hopefully, I won't mess it up. Okay, so, and guys, if you can just chime in the comment section and let me know if you're seeing this. All right, we're going to go to my YouTube channel. I did it. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see my YouTube channel. Yay, there I am. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would highly encourage you to do so. We're going to be putting a lot more into the YouTube channel in the next coming months. So as you can see, my tech team did a beautiful job of organizing all the videos. We have an Ask Cosi session. We have a 2-minute chat section, my how-tos on just different exercises, the live event series from last summer, and then also my live episodes. And then here are just some of my favorite channels down here. All right, so my new thing that I just put on here, guys, was my 2-minute chat. And that's exactly what it is. It's actually more like 3 or 4 minutes, but we're just going to call it a 2-minute chat. So basically on this one, for example, I'm just talking about the differences in phantom limb pain, limb sensation, and residual limb pain. But here's the cool part. When you click on the 2-minute chat, okay, and you scroll down in the comment section, I have all the different videos and links so that you can get more information. So if you're just kind of scrolling around and you're saying, okay, I just want to check out some information on a particular topic, let me see if I want to look more into it. So here are the videos on how to manage phantom limb pain. Here's the full live on the full description of phantom limb pain and all the different options and the why it happens, and then a couple of more shows down here. So, all right, I'm going to click back to my screen and hopefully that worked. Were you guys able to see it? Oh, golly, no sharing. Doggone it. Well, I tried. Okay, guys, I don't know why that didn't work. Here, let me just type it in the old-fashioned way, right? Okay, so there's the link to my YouTube channel. I probably should have just done that from the beginning. Just go ahead and right-click if you want, and you guys can check it out. But like I said, the 2-minute chat there, you can see all of the different other videos that I put under each 2-minute chat. So it's just more resources for you. Yeah, you guys couldn't see it. Okay, not a problem, guys. All right, let me get back to some of these questions. Hang on. Coming up here. Scroll up, scroll down. Sorry, guys. Just takes a minute to scroll through. Okay, so Jeanette, we left off with Jeanette's question. Jeanette says, so Cosi, I developed plantar fasciitis on my right foot because of my left leg problem. So after amputation, will the plantar fasciitis get better once I start using a prosthetic? Actually, Jeanette, you might notice a little bit of a flare up. And the reason is because if the plantar fasciitis I'm assuming you're a left leg amputee. So when you start learning to use your prosthesis, you're going to want to favor your sound leg. So it might irritate that plantar fasciitis. But again, Jeanette, this is something that is bread and butter for a physical therapist, even if they're not an amputee specialist, to handle. And a lot of managing with the plantar fasciitis is to help bring that swelling down, to help teach conservative methods, especially first thing in the morning when you wake up, making sure that you warm up that plantar fascia, that you stretch it out very gently, that you're not too aggressive with it before your feet even hit the ground in the morning. So again, Jeanette, this is something that I would definitely bring to the physical therapist, because you don't want that to get more aggravated as you're learning to use your prosthesis. Now, theoretically, right, as you learn to use your prosthesis, you're going to hopefully use the weight more on your prosthetic side and take some of the pressure off of that plantar fasciitis. But again, this is definitely something you want to jump on and kind of get in check so it doesn't get out of hand. Okay. Eric says, I walk all day, and the more I walk, the more I shrink, even at the gym, but the socks help. And again, for the most part, for many amputees, that is their normal course of their day. And again, especially living in hot, sticky Florida, right? You start off in the morning, and a lot of folks will say, yep, I got to kind of jump a little bit into that prosthesis, walk a few steps, and then I have to take it off, put a sock on, walk a few more steps, and get into that socket. And then as the day goes on, a person might need to add socks because their limb will tend to shrink as the day goes on. And then they go to bed at night and the button resets in the morning, right? So again, one of the things I recommend, especially if you're having a lot of volume fluctuations, is at nighttime to wear your shrinker, continue to wear your shrinker. And that might help just control that volume just a little bit from the nighttime into the morning. But when I see of it as a problem, so I was mentioning earlier that I thought someone I was working with would be a candidate for adjustable socket, is when they told me that by the time they add on enough socks to accommodate for that volume loss, they've been elevated out of their socket. They've been raised up out of their socket, and they lose stability and they lose suspension. Okay, so for me, that's when it becomes a problem that they need to maybe think about looking into adjustable socket. Stephen says, insurance, I ask until someone said yes. I stop asking and go with the yes. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so it was you were talking about the knee, Julie. Okay, and Julie, this is something that, again, if you want to, okay, Bob is like grabbing onto my shirt here. Julie, if after the show is done, if you want to send me an email, and I'll be happy to send you a list of some of the knees, the running knees that I know some of my patients have liked and worked with. Okay, here we go. 3S80. Thank you, Arnold. Yeah, and I have a lot of people who are very happy with the 3S80. That's just kind of a popular knee there. Sorry, guys, I am trying to. Hey, Elizabeth is on board. Oh, wonderful. So Robin says, I have learned with my running AK friends, those of us who have a higher level of amputation, meaning shorter residual limb, run more efficiently with a straight pylon. Those above the knees with longer residual limbs seem to adapt and run well with an articulating knee. It's really a personal choice. I run with a straight pylon, circumduction, meaning that she swings her leg out, because it takes the fear of falling out of the equation. And I also run with a flex foot run blade by issue. Now, it's interesting, and Robin, thank you for sharing that. I used to always say, no, if you're an above the knee amputee, you need to learn how to run by using as much of a regular running pattern as you possibly can. If you do circumduction, it's not efficient, it's not this. And just as I became a more experienced therapist, and I realized that there were several people who run successfully with using a circumducted gait, meaning that they keep the knees straight. They don't have a knee, it's just a straight pylon, and they run by swinging their leg out. And Robin is absolutely right. The shorter the residual limb, the easier it might be to run in that manner. I will say this, if you are learning how to run, and especially if you have the benefit of having a therapist who's teaching you how to run, or if you're able to attend a running clinic, I would encourage you to try to do both ways of running, just to see, which one will work best for you. Oh, Julie, of course I have to wear green. So, Julie, maybe you'll have to share with me if in Ireland it's the same case. Here in the United States, apparently, if you are not wearing green on St. Patrick's Day, it gives people the right to pinch you. So I have 4 kids who would love to pinch their mama, so I had to make sure to wear green today. Okay. All right. All right, trying to kind of scroll through here, guys. Oh, Debbie's getting her prosthetic tomorrow from Limb Brace. Wonderful. Um, okay, so Lee says, hi, Cosi, sorry to be late. I have a right above the knee amputation that I have both phantom limb sensation and pain, but it is doable. However, my residual limb pain is killing me. What is the best plan of action? Lee, I don't know if you just saw the video, but I just posted a video on this on my YouTube channel. It's interesting that you are aware of the difference. So that's a really important thing, guys, is knowing the difference between phantom limb pain, phantom limb sensation, and residual limb pain. Why? Because when you know the difference, then you have a better chance at trying to figure out how to improve upon it. Now, there was a gentleman who watched the video today and he said he didn't see why he needed to know the difference between the three, and he's tried everything and nothing has worked. And unfortunately, sometimes you have those type of cases. Lee, in your case, they're the 2 more common reasons for residual limb pain that I see are due to bone spurs and neuromas. Those tend to be the 2 big culprits for residual limb pain. And it's usually a very localized pain, especially with the bone spurs, and especially when you put weight through your residual limb. With the neuroma, it's also a very localized and a very sharp electric pain, is how it's described to me by some of my patients. So Lee, it would be good to see if you have either of those 2, because either of those 2 do have certain treatment options. Other things to consider, Lee, you are a right AK. Okay, so as an AK, you still have obviously those thigh muscles there. They're not intact, but you still have residual thigh muscle there. So it could be that some of those muscles are experiencing a tendonitis, and maybe that's why you're having residual limb pain, or that they might be tight. Okay. With my above the knee amputees, those front muscles in the hip, the front hip flexors can get really, really tight. And also the groin muscles can also get very tight. And the muscles in the bum can really also, the external rotators that are located deep within your bum can get really tight. And a lot of this can lead to residual limb pain. Okay. So Lee, I would say, again, go to your physical therapist. This is something that we can screen for and just try to pinpoint where is this pain coming from, which will help us figure out, okay, what's an effective way to treat it. Okay. Debbie asks, is one cane better than another for amputees? Should I measure from where my hand is to the floor? So as far as canes are concerned, there's a couple of different canes out there on the market, Debbie. The most common one that people see is called a straight cane. And basically it looks like the candy cane, right? It just ends in a single point on the floor. Then you have what's called a quad cane. It's called a quad cane because it has 4 little legs that sit on the floor, and they come in small or large. So it'll be called the small based quad cane, where it'll be just a smaller version, and then the large based quad cane. So of the 3 canes, the large based quad cane is going to give you the most support because you have the bigger base of support there. Okay. Then the small based, and then the regular straight cane is the one that will give you the least amount of support. And again, Debbie, when you're being fit for this, the rough measurement is you kind of rest your arms by your side, right? And the head of the cane should come to this part of your wrist. If you're, you know what? Come here, Bob. Your turn. You're on, buddy. I know you've been drinking a lot in honor of St. Patty's Day. All right. So the cane, when you just sit the cane on the floor, it should hit right around your wrist, right around there. Okay. so that when you're holding on to it, you're not arching your shoulders up, but you're also not stooping down to try to reach that cane. So that's kind of like the optimal height that you want to adjust the cane for. All right, and guys, I'm going to answer this one question here from Patricia before I answer your other questions. So I'm not done yet, so I'm going to get back to those. Patricia had asked, I am a left above the knee amputee. I am walking with 2 arm crutches and am practicing with 1 arm crutch. What I find is when I'm walking with the 1 crutch, I lean very heavily on it when I take a step. I don't know how to stop doing that, so someday I may be able to walk unassisted. Any suggestions appreciated? And Patricia, this is a very common problem that I see with my patients. They'll come in and they'll tell me, you know, I've been trying to get off the walker for I don't know how long and get to a 1 cane, or like in your case, I've been trying to go from 2 crutches to 1 crutch, and I just can't seem to make it happen. So there's a lot of things that can be involved with this. But the first thing, and this is what I think might be happening with you, Patricia, is the side that you use the cane or the crutch on. Okay, so let me just take you through the progression. So typically when you have someone who's learning to use a prosthesis and they need a lot of assistance, they'll use a 2-handed device, right? So it'll either be the 2 crutches, the 2 4-arm crutches, or a walker. As the person improves and the therapist decides to progress them to a 1-handed device, you're going to put that device on the opposite side of their prosthesis. So Patricia, in your case, you said you are a left AK, right? So we're going to make Bob a left AK. That would mean that you're going to use your crutch on the right hand. And when you take a step with your left prosthesis, the crutch goes with it. That's where you're going to get the best support from that crutch. And this is where I see a lot of people, amputees and non-amputees alike, not properly utilizing their crutches and their canes with their gait patterns. Okay, so the crutch and the cane can only offer you support if you're using it in the correct pattern, right? And y'all have heard me mention that episode of House, that old TV show of the cranky doctor, and he would always use the cane on the wrong side. It drove me bonkers. But anyways, so Patricia, that's one thing to start to consider. Are you using it on the correct side? Now, as my patients get better, right? If they get good at using the cane or the crutch on the opposite side, then my next step with them is to teach them how to use it on the same side. Okay? And the reason is if they use it on the same side, it's going to force them to actually put more weight into the prosthesis. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's how it works. Okay, so do you guys understand, see the progression there? When you need a lot of support, right, we give you 2-handed support, a walker, 2 crutches. As you get better, we take it down to 1 hand, but we put it in the hand on the opposite side, the hand that's going to give you the most support as you're walking. Then, as you get better with that, we have to make it more challenging. So we'll put it on the same side, and it's going to force you to put more weight into the prosthesis. Now, everybody's a little different. There are some people that they skip through some of these phases, and therapists also have just their different ways of doing things. I have my own unique way of how I progress my patients through these phases, okay, depending on the individual. But Patricia, that would be one of the first things is I would encourage you to just kind of take a look at is, okay, are you using it in the right hand? Are you utilizing it properly? Okay. And then the second thing, Patricia, probably the most common problem, and brownie points to the person who can say this in the comment section before I say it. The most common problem as to why a person has trouble transitioning from a 2-handed device, 2 crutches to 1 crutch, it's all about the butt. It's all about the butt, okay? Weakness in the gluteal muscles. If I had to pick one biggest culprit, it would be that, okay? Lots of other stuff involved, yes, of course, coordination, proprioception, sometimes range of motion, sometimes alignment, right? But if I had to think of the biggest culprit as to why a person has difficulty transitioning from a walker to a cane, it's the strength in the gluteal muscles, okay? And this comes when the person did not do good foundational therapeutic exercise training with their physical therapist. That they just kind of skipped through that foundational stage, right? And they just got to start walking. And they didn't take the time to do the proper strengthening to go with it. The good news is, Patricia, it's possible to get this back, okay? And sometimes with my patients, they come in and they're at this stage, right? They're trying to get off the walker. They can zip up and down with the walker all over the place, and they want to get onto the one-handed device. And I have to backtrack them a little bit and say, you know what? We got to hit some of the foundational basics first before we can progress you. But the good news is you can address that and it can get better. Arnold says you can easily lock the 3S80 knee, which is nice, especially when going downstairs. I have an Oser Flex Run foot too. Those are nice feet. Those are really nice feet, Arnold. Susan asks, I won't ride a bike or run or do anything but walk because I'm afraid of falling. How does one get over that fear? I've been an amputee for 6 years. Susan, it's a very, very common fear, and it's something I cannot relate to personally myself. I see it in my patients all the time. And oftentimes, obviously, with my patients, many of them come in not being able to walk, and it's just fear of walking. That is what they're trying to overcome. Susan, oftentimes the fear, there's a physical component behind that. Okay. When a person tells me I'm afraid of walking because I feel like that leg is just not going to be underneath me, I just don't feel steady, and I do a physical exam, I can usually say, you know what? You have a really weak XYZ muscle group and you're not stable. That's why you're afraid of walking, because you're not stable. Or, your balance, you have severe balance deficits. So there's something there that needs to be addressed so that you will feel more stable and more comfortable. Is there an emotional, psychological side to the fear? Absolutely, of course. It's not your leg and you're having to trust this piece of equipment to always be there. So Susan, if you're walking independently and you're thinking about, okay, how can I take that next step to doing an adaptive sport like riding a bike or running? Okay, now unfortunately with COVID, things are a little bit not as accessible as they used to be, but we have a lot of wonderful adaptive sport organizations out there. It's a simple Google search away, Susan. I know I've worked with a couple of organizations that provide adaptive technology, and they provide an environment where you can safely try some of these sports. So for example, for the bicycle, they have adaptive bicycles, which are a lot of fun to ride. And just kind of getting back into it, I guess the key is putting yourself in an environment that's safe where you can experiment and try these things. Okay, so for example, if I have somebody who wants to learn how to run and they are a candidate for running, okay, and they come to my clinic, and if walking is scary, running is really, really scary, as an amputee. So for me, I put my patients into a safe setting. I'll put them in a grassy field. It'll be myself and it'll be a tech with me, someone preferably with nice big biceps, right? And we will have our patient guarded in a very safe manner. And I will talk them through the steps so that they can experiment and try the running process. Are they going to have some stumbles along the way? Yes, they're going to have some stumbles along the way, and even occasionally a fall. But again, that's why you have the therapist assistant, and you have a grassy area, and you're practicing in a safe environment. And hopefully, Susan, we'll start to see some of these events and clinics come back. I know the challenge, I'm dying to go to one of the Challenge Athlete Foundation running clinics and be able to participate in one of those myself. So Susan, just do a Google search in your area for some of these things. Julie said, never heard of that pinching. Julie, I'm not kidding. That has been around since I was a kid. Heaven forbid if you showed up at school and you weren't wearing green on St. Patrick's Day, your booty was going to get pinched by someone. And it didn't matter if you were Irish or not Irish, you had to wear green. I don't know where that tradition came from, but it's a real thing. I'm not making it up. Let's see. Eric says, my physical therapist noticed my sound ankle was rolling when I walk. I found out that at some point I broke it. Well, good gravy, Eric. Now I walk bad on my prosthetic to compensate my ankle. Oh boy, Eric. if in fact you did break your ankle, I kind of get that checked out. Go see an orthopod. Uh, you know, go see the orthopedic physician, get that properly diagnosed. If there is some sort of instability there in your ankle, you want to get that taken care of, because again, that's your sound side. That's supposed to be your stronger side. So you want to really take good care of it. And you're a young guy. You don't want to have to settle for, um, you know, not walking as well as you can on your prosthetic side. So I would encourage you to get that checked out. Jeanette, it was nice seeing you. Thank you. Mm. Susan says, so the end goal would be using the cane on the same side as the prosthesis. It all depends, Susan. It really all depends on the individual and what the final goal will be. So again, for majority of folks, if their end game is using a cane, then no, actually it's usually recommended that for a daily basis, the person continue to use their cane on the opposite side of the prosthesis, okay, just so that they can have that support and stability. Now, in the instance where I told you that I sometimes, as a person gets better, I'll have them put the cane on the same side of the prosthesis, it's because I know that they're going to eventually progress to walking without any assistive device, okay? And I want to encourage them to put more weight into the prosthetic side, okay? And there's a psychological component to that as well, that I've noticed that my patients just gain more confidence when they do it that way. But if my patient is the person that I evaluated them, I've assessed them, and I said, you know what, their max potential is going to be to walk with a cane, and it's what's going to allow them the most amount of independence in the community, then no, I will have them continue to use it on the opposite side, and maybe just use on the same side for certain exercises. Hey, Harsh, happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Okay. Ooh, Susan, Robin has some really great information here for you. She is an expert bicycle rider. She's quite the athlete. So Mary, you've been posting these questions, and darling, I've not been meaning to ignore you. Would a bionic socket help my riding? That's a really good question, Mary. With horseback riding, I've done a little bit of horseback riding myself. I can understand where the suspension could be a potential problem for horseback riding. So Mary, is that where you're having a problem, where the suspension, the leg is not staying on very well? If you can put a little bit more information there. Oh, thank you, Harsh. Oh, and John says, I have always ridden my bicycle before amputation. Afterwards, I missed it, and that gave me incentive to get back on my bicycle, and now I ride all the time when weather permits. And again, guys, when there's something to be said about muscle memory and experience. If I have someone come into my clinic and they say, you know what, I want to learn how to ride a bike again, or I want to learn how to run again, I'm like, okay, awesome, let's take a look. One of the first questions I'll ask them is, did you ride a bicycle or did you run prior to your amputation? Okay, because obviously if it's an activity that you did prior to amputation, something you were good at, it's going to be that much easier for you to recoup that skill later on. And then also sometimes I might see someone that, nope, was never a runner, I was never ridden a bicycle before my amputation. Then it might be, depending on the particular individual, it might be a little bit more difficult to get back to that activity. But again, like I said, we have so many more options nowadays for adaptation for sports. So Patricia says, thank you for your answer. It helped a lot. I do believe I did not complete fundamentals. I just started to walk with my PT, did not do balance or proprioception exercises. We'll go back to the basics. Thanks so much. My pleasure. And Patricia, go to, hang on, let me see if I can, for some reason this is not, okay. So Patricia, go to the Mission Gait channel. I just posted that up there on YouTube. YouTube, Mission Gait, and then in the search engine, put Mission Gait Cosi. There's a series of 3 videos that I did in conjunction with Mission Gait, okay? And it's the foundational exercises that pretty much all of my all of my patients receive. So that, if you're looking for good foundational exercises, I would say to start there. All right, hang on, a couple more messages coming in. See, Debbie says she grew up with it too. Okay, so she knows what I'm talking about. Kay says, I'll testify to that pinching, and I'm even much older. Steven says, I'm Italian. I don't wear green. I'm 6'2". No one pinches me. Steven, I'd be afraid to pinch you too. John asked a good question. Very good. Shouldn't our end game be to walk without any device? So yes, John, in a perfect world, we would get back to walking without an assistive device after amputation. In some cases, it's simply not possible. And again, this is where you have to go to the physical therapist. That is our bread and butter. That is our expertise, is the gait cycle and evaluating a person from head to toe to see what is interfering with their gait cycle and how to get them back to it and rehabbing them to their max potential. Okay. And guys, I've been doing this for 18 plus years, and I still have patients who come in and surprise me to no end. People that when they come into my clinic and I'm thinking to myself, oh dear, this person, no. And they surprise me. They put the work in, they are dedicated, they are motivated, and they end up walking without any assisted device. Okay. So, but for the most part, John, there is a certain baseline level. Okay. And a person has to have a certain baseline level of strength, stability, balance, coordination, and proprioception in order to be able to walk safely without an assistive device. Okay. And again, a lot of this can be determined by the person's history. Okay. And guys, this goes for my non-amputees. You know, I did several years in home health, several years working all the different other specialties in physical therapy. So I worked with a lot of different pathologies, non-amputee related, okay, lots of injuries. And a lot of times you have to look at what the person was doing prior to their injury to sometimes gauge where they can be reasonably expected to achieve with their mobility, okay? So John, the conversation I have with my patients, and this is the honest to goodness truth. I don't sugarcoat anything with my patients. If I have a patient who comes in and says, I want to walk by myself, I don't want to ever have to use a cane or anything. And if I do the evaluation and I see that that may not be a reasonable goal, okay, what I say to them is, I can get you to this level. Like, I can almost guarantee you that I can get you to this level with therapy. Once we get you to this level, then we're going to be able to have a better idea as to whether we can get you to this level. Okay, because even like I said, with 18 plus years I've been doing this, there are some people that should walk without an assistive device and they don't. And there's other people that have no business walking on their own and they do. Okay, so I will say that putting in the time and the work with the therapy, there's no shortcuts to it. Okay, if you want to walk without an assistive device and you're starting off behind the game, you've got to put the work and therapy into it. I can tell you that much. But. So Kristen, here's one of my other PTs on board. She says, I do the same for training with a cane. Okay, so Mary says with the posting, okay, so posting up and down with the horseback riding and the safety heel down, toe up, is there a foot that can go like heel down and toe up for safety? Ooh, Mary, that's a great question, Mary. Actually, Mary, if you don't mind, I'm going to put my email up there one more time. Mary, I would love to look into this more for you. Mary, can you send me an email just to kind of remind me to look into this for you? I have some ideas, but I kind of want to do a little more research for you on this one. So send me an email with this question, and I'm going to get back to you this week on that, okay? John says, I run a support group. I run a support group leader, and I've been facing a lot of issues with those in my group that are not mentally motivated. How can I help them to change their attitude? Ooh, that's a good one. If I had the perfect answer for that, John, that's kind of one of the holy grails here in therapy is how do you motivate, in my case, how do you motivate your patients? Especially when you see that they are not putting in the time and the work. It's a multi-system approach, I would say, John. And again, I am not a psychology clinician. I have to use a lot of psychology when I treat my patients, and I've had to learn how I can reach my patients on a psychological and sometimes emotional and spiritual level to see if I can get them motivated. But certainly, when I see someone who's not motivated, it's kind of just tapping into, okay, what are their goals? What is it that they want to be able to do in their life? What is missing in their life that they would do anything to be able to do again? I had a recent patient that he had a very, very difficult time and was in a very difficult place. And a friend of his said, what is the one thing you wish you could do before you die again, before you die? And he said, I would love to just be able to go fishing. And his friend looked at him and said, then go get the therapy done so you can go fish. And now this person is in my clinic learning how to walk after years of not walking so that he can go fish again, because that is what will give him joy in his life. So John, these are very, very difficult situations, and again, as a clinician, I'm screening my patients. If I think there is clinical depression, then I definitely refer out to a healthcare professional, mental health care professional that can address this. It's a very real thing. Depression is a very real thing. Anxiety after amputation. And this is something, that needs to be addressed. Okay. So a lot of times, again, the best way I connect with my patients when they first come into my clinic, it's by asking them what it is that they want to be able to do in their lives again. And seeing how, from a physical standpoint, for me, how I can help them achieve that through small steps and helping them see the path to getting to their goals. So, and again, I think support groups are a fantastic resource because it helps people see people who are doing better than they are, so they have something to look to achieve. And it also helps them see people who are not doing as great as they are, and they can see how far they've come. So, yeah. Let's see. Mark says music can motivate. Amen to that. I know we definitely have the music blaring in my clinic at times to get people going. Harsh says best is peer visitors. And I agree, guys. And actually, at the end of this month, I get to have Amputee Coalition come on board the show. Did I tell you guys that? Amputee Coalition is coming on board at the end of this month, and they're going to talk a little bit about peer visitors. We're going to talk a lot of stuff with Amputee Coalition, but that's one of the things we'll be covering is peer visitors. Jess says, as a licensed therapist, I utilize meeting people at where they are at. Start small on any sort of goals. Maybe just attending the group is huge for them. You're absolutely right. Or they are hoping to connect with others in the group, even to commiserate. Yep. Very good. John says, good starting point, asking the right questions. And yes, depression is real. Susan says, I do have PTSD regarding what I had went through that led me to the amputation. So yeah, maybe I'm messed up mentally. And Susan, it takes a village to recover. Some of you may be aware I'm a breast cancer survivor, very recent breast cancer survivor. And it wasn't just about using chemotherapy and using way too many surgeries to get rid of the cancer. It was also addressing the emotional side of recovery. And I did need to have help in the form of someone from my parish, my church parish, someone that I could talk to and just share what it was that I was going through. Someone that was not in my immediate family, somebody who was a little more objective to listen to what I was going through and just to see, okay, are my coping strategies where they need to be? Do I need to seek professional help? Okay. Or do I continue with my coping strategies that I've been utilizing? Okay. We all need that if we're recovering from something major. And no, it doesn't mean that you're messed up mentally, Susan. That's just my personal opinion. Pat says, as a former runner and a current art right above the knee amputee, my hope is to ultimately master the blade as well as to get back on my road bike. I'm working on both. In the meantime, I've discovered hand cycling. Yes. and I'm training for long distance races now. I find the hand cycle makes me feel like an athlete again, as well as allowing me to get out for some solid upper body and core exercise. Besides that, it's a lot of fun, and it really is. All right. Robin says, you cannot motivate someone who is unwilling to try. Learning to walk is extremely hard work. All you can do is expose them to possibilities and guide them to a knowledgeable and skilled therapist to teach them, but they have to make the effort and stay the hard, difficult course. And if there's anybody who knows what she's talking about on this show, it's Robin, right there, right there. John says that's where COVID has hurt support groups because we don't meet in person, and it has hurt. You're right. And I do have to give a shout out to those support groups that have continued to try to provide virtual support. For example, the Hanger support group down in South Florida does an amazing job. And the coordinator for that particular support group, I'm going to make her blush a little bit. Elizabeth does a beautiful job of continuing to have speakers on board, of continuing to hold these Zoom meetings and letting everybody have their voice during these support group meetings. I've been fortunate to speak a couple of times at that particular support group. So they're still out there, guys. They're out there being done, and it's worth the effort trying to go to those while we're waiting things to hopefully establish a little more normalcy. All right, guys, there's one question here that came in from India, and I really want to address this particular. Sorry, making sure I got this comment. Okay, so Manoj says, I'm a right above the knee from India. I am using a prosthesis since 2008. I am facing issue with the socket fitting and sweating on the stump area. I have tried suction socket, pin liner sockets so far. There is loose muscle, soft tissue at the bottom of my stump due to which socket fittings doesn't fit well. Socket gets rotated at the time of walking, and it rubs in the inner upper side area. I'm assuming he's talking about the groin area. He says, sorry, I don't know what word to use. I have been advised to do the revision of stump surgery by my many prosthetists for removal of soft tissue. I have tried to gather some information, also came to know about advanced surgical techniques such as targeted muscle reinnervation and regenerative peripheral nerve interface, but the feedback from the amputee in USA were good. Okay, so Manoj, because of the fact that you've been an amputee for quite some time, since 2008, it's obvious that your limb has had a lot of time to remodel, and you've probably experienced a lot of atrophy in the limb, which is probably why you have a lot of that soft tissue at the end, okay? And usually I say surgery is like the last resort, whether it's because you have a neuroma, a bone spur, a lot of extra soft tissue, whatever the case is, surgery should be the last resort. And it sounds like, Manoj, that you've been trying everything. You've tried different suction sockets. It sounds like you've had the opinion of more than one prosthetist trying to make a socket for you. The only thing I might suggest that you may want to just try, I don't know if you've already tried this or not, Manoj, but to try a suspension sleeve, because you mentioned in there that you have a lot of problems with rotation. And as an above the knee amputee, this happens a lot to some of my above the knee amputees, especially if they have short residual limbs and also when they're trying to run. So having a sleeve, and it's a sleeve that goes over the socket and sometimes will go around your waist. There's different styles out there, and it helps control the rotation. So it might be that that's all you need. Or another thing to consider, especially if you have a lot of soft tissue, take a look at your liners. Try to see if there's a liner that can kind of give you better compression of all that soft tissue, okay? Now, again, sometimes you've tried everything in Manoj. It sounds like you've been through the gauntlet and trying several years. If, in fact, it does come to having a revision surgery, okay, then yes, I would definitely look into finding a surgeon who is experienced with targeted muscle reinnervation or RPNI, the regenerative peripheral nerve interface. And the reason for this is if they're already going in there and revising everything, in doing the targeted muscle reinnervation, okay, they are hopefully going to prevent future problems with neuromas. And again, research is still kind of percolating out there to see about the long-term benefits of TMR surgery, okay, but certainly, and we had a surgeon on the show not too long ago who's an expert on doing these surgeries. Certainly when you get that nerve and you plug it back into the muscle, it's going to less likely to cause you problems down the line. So Manoj, definitely, try those couple of things first if you haven't already tried them. Try the belt around the waist to help prevent rotation. Try to look into a different liner that can maybe give you better compression for all that soft tissue and to kind of lock it into place a little bit better. But if it does come to revision surgery of your residual limb, do your homework, find that surgeon who is experienced with doing the TMR surgery. Okay, so let's see few more comments rolled in here. Harsh says, inspiration for today. When I understand that I create thoughts, I have mastery over them. From time to time, I need to remind myself of this, keep a check on my thoughts, steer and stop them whenever and wherever necessary. Nicely said, Harsh. Oh, Elizabeth, there you go, girl. Debbie says, thank God for support groups. I just know family to talking to, so it helps much. Lee says, so Lee, Lee, can you just send me an email? I'd like to follow up with you a little bit more on that and about whether or not you should have a physical therapist. Let me read back in the comments a little bit more and can you just send me an email to kind of nudge me? And guys, the reason is because I want to make sure I answer your questions properly. And the best way is to put it into my email. And that way because I check my emails every day for all the questions that come in. So if it's in the email, then I know I'm going to address it and find that answer for you. John says, this is the first time I have watched your live chat. And I'm really glad I found you live today. John, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. It's nice to see you. God bless you. Thank you. And we'll try to keep up with your talks as they come on live. Thank you, John. And just so you know, the shows are always posted also on my Facebook page. So you can watch the replay from as far as 2018 when I went public with the Cosi Talks live show. So guys, I am talked out, which for those of you who know me, it takes a lot to talk me out. You guys have talked me out this evening. So for those who are still hanging on board, cheers to you guys this evening. Thank you for letting me be a part of your lives this evening. Guys, if you can, please go to the YouTube channel, hit subscribe for the Cosi Talks YouTube channel, share it around, please. That really helps get the word out. And that would really help with helping grow the platform. Keep checking back because I'm going to start putting some more of those 2-minute chats on there and some more goodies on there. So guys, next week, free giveaway information. Stay there for that. Stay. Hang on. I cannot type as fast as I talk. There. Ta-da. Okay. So next week, we've got VitalFit coming on board. Greg Menino is going to be here with me. We're going to be talking about osteomyelitis and cellulitis. These are some pretty nasty little infections that can sometimes take up our amputees' time. So we're going to talk to you about what it is, what to look for, what you need to know about it. There's going to be some free giveaways. And if you want to know how to be in the raffle for the free giveaway of a full-size VitalFit kit, cleanser, lotion, liquid to powder stuff, really good stuff, click on that link, go to my website to the VitalFit section and watch the video. And that video will tell you how you can be in the free giveaway. Mary, I look forward to hearing from you. All right, guys, I am out. See you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. God bless, guys, and happy St. Patrick's Day.